Hey guys, it's Andy from Aquariums Maintained by Andy. This is our Season 1, Episode 1. We're trying to get our YouTube thing going, so if you see this and you know who I am, go ahead and like it, subscribe, or share, whatever you need to do. And this is probably the 115th time that I've tried to actually do this video. I'm not very good at public speaking, but here we go anyway. Let's talk about algae. Okay, so number one, at some point in time, every fish tank is going to have algae. Old tanks, new tanks, it doesn't matter, you're going to have algae. Algae is nature's way of breaking down the nutrients that's left over in the tank from leftover food, from animals that have passed, the urea, all that kind of stuff. Basically just detritus in your tank, and breaks down to your ammonia, your nitrite, and nitrate. And also phosphate, which are all just algae food. So the more ammonia that you have, the more nitrate that you have, the more phosphate that you have, the more algae you're going to have. That's one reason why it's so important to really get your feeding on a very good schedule. That way you're not overfeeding and your ecosystem can break down the nutrients that you're putting into the tank. Because once you put in too many nutrients and your tank cannot export it quick enough, that's when you start getting all these massive algae outbreaks. So how do you control algae in your tank? Well, first off, you got to figure out where it's coming from. It's either going to be from too much light, or too much food, or being an overstocked tank that requires too much food. There's just too many nutrients inside the system that it can't get rid of, so therefore you have this large algae outbreak. So number one, make sure your feeding is on point. Once you figure out that your feeding is as you should, the next step would be you want to dial back your lights. You really don't want to run your lights no more than 8 to 10 hours a day. Some people do run their lights longer than that with no bad effect, but just trust me, if you have algae issues, go ahead and cut your lights back. There's even some blackout stuff that you can get that will really get rid of algae. There's another product called Algae Fix. And Algae Fix, if it's used correctly, it works fine, but the thing is people don't often use it correctly, and they end up putting too much in their tank or in their pond, and it zaps the oxygen, and it's just not bad. So the best thing to do is watch your nutrients, control your lighting, and make sure that you're stocked properly. That's the best ways to handle your algae situations. But none of this matters if you're not doing your routine maintenance. You know, most tanks need about a 50% water change every 2 to 3 weeks. Some more, some less. You know, you need to start doing your water test and read your water test, and your test will tell you what to do with your water. You got to learn how to keep your water before you can keep fish. And also, there are animals that will help you control algae. Freshwater tanks, you know, Siamese algae eaters or flying foxes are good. Snails, I am a huge proponent for snails because they are fantastic algae eaters in the saltwater world and the freshwater world. They're inexpensive and they reproduce pretty easily, so they can keep your algae under control. A lot of people don't like snails in their tank, which I don't understand why. Some people don't want them in there, but a lot of people don't. But anyway, so in your freshwater tanks, you know, your snails, you have a mono shrimp that will eat algae, your cherry shrimp that will eat algae. You have certain fish, flying fox, autocinculus catfish. There's a lot of those that are great for eating algae and help you control your algae. And saltwater has the same kind of animals. You know, there's snails, emerald crabs, hermit crabs, tangs. Tangs are great at eating algae. They're grazers and they'll eat algae all day long. So when it comes down to it, you really just have to balance your tank. You don't want more nutrients going into your tank than your tank can break down and get rid of on its own. Because once you do that, then you really have to start manipulating the tank, start doing your water changes more often, and start doing more water tests. So the best thing to do is feed properly, stock properly, maintain a good light schedule, and do your routine maintenance. And really, if you do those things, you should not have a horrible problem with algae. And if you like this video, go ahead and give it a like, give it a share, whatever you'd like to do, we sure would appreciate it. Thank you so much.